Well, before we go, it is an understatement, I'm sure we'd all agree, to say that the Matildas have captured the imagination of, I suspect, thousands of Australians who've never watched a game of soccer in their life. I think what's happened is that people tuned in out of fascination, then saw how good the girls were and how well they conducted themselves, and we were swept up in the hope that they would go all the way. Apart from the obvious disappointment to the girls themselves, it's irrelevant to many of us whether they came first or fourth. Much has been said about what's been done for women's sport. I don't think the focus needs to be on gender. The real point of interest is not that they are women, but simply how damn good this women's team is. Now, of course, Albo and co seem to want to cash in on their popularity and talk about more money to be spent on women's sport. I venture to say there's hardly a politician in Canberra who'd know anything about sport, let alone women's sport. Albo, if you want to be fair dinkum, then before you open your mouth with an attempt to win votes, talk to someone like Sam Kerr first, or Meg Lanning, the captain of that magnificent women's cricket team. There are others, but they'll tell you where the money would best be spent. Which brings us to this point about money and Australia's women's rugby players. Now, quite a few of them have signed a statement in which they assert, I believe quite rightly, that they've been lied to about further investment in women's rugby by Rugby Australia. The stupid argument against them is, well, you get people through the gate, you get crowds, you get sponsorships, and we'll pay you the money. That argument doesn't hold water. There's an outfit called Rugby Australia. It's supposed to be looking after all rugby, from grassroots to the top. It simply doesn't. But that includes women's rugby, and these women have been lied to. Rugby Australia told them that they couldn't fly anything beyond economy, but the Wallabies, mobs of them, fly business class. Read their contracts, they were told there wasn't enough money in the game. But they rightly say, well, Rugby Australia paid $5 million for a rugby league player. They were told the coach would be full-time. The coach is not. Money, the problem. But the failed Wallaby coach, Eddie Jones, who has won one test out of his last 13, coaching England and Australia, 1 out of 13, coaching in inverted commas, has 12 assistant coaches for a 15-man team. 12. One of them walked off the job on the day the team left for France, prompting that extraordinary and unacceptable outburst by Eddie Jones attacking the media because he's under the pump. But what does Eddie Jones do for the massive paycheck that he gets? Some say $1 million plus. He's got 11 assistant coaches, all paid, including a learning coach, a speed coach, a defence coach, an attack coach, a forwards coach, a line-out coach, a maul coach, a kicking coach, yes, a learning coach, a strength coach, a conditioning coach, a speed coach, a sports scientist, oh God, and now the former All Blacks coach. Well, why don't we ask the King of England? There's no one left to ask. Who is coaching this outfit with coaches falling over one another? But don't worry, Eddie Jones now has someone else to blame for his failure. Australia's female rugby players make a very strong point. After all, when they learnt from TikTok that the wives and girlfriends of Wallaby players had been flown in to say goodbye to the men's team, it prompted one of the female rugby players, one of the Wallaroos, to say Wallaby partners are better looked after than the Wallaroos. The Matildas have brilliantly shone the spotlight on women's sport at the same time that Australia's female rugby players are claiming they've been lied to about further investment in their program, and on what is known, that seems to be the case. The spendthrift rugby administration hasn't found a way to accommodate the female rugby players. Of course, that's unacceptable, but don't lie about it.